Welcome to episode number 2 of the world's okayest mountain bike podcast, where we promise it'll probably be okay. Not going to be great, not going to be spectacular, but we already feel a lot more comfortable doing what we're doing. I'm your host, Clinton Sylvie, and with me today is Kyle Krangle, as usual.
Hey.
And a special guest, because we have no idea what's happened to Ryan Brown. We thought he'd be recording with us tonight. We don't have him, but we do have someone else that's going to bring a little bit of a different perspective than what we're used to, and that is my sister, Jaclyn Rowe. Say hi, Jaclyn.
Hello, be excited. We don't need Ryan. Who's Ryan? Is it Ryan?
Ryan. I just got an echo of myself off somebody. We're good. Anyway, we'll get to Jaclyn in a second. First thing, though, Kyle, I've got to know. So today, everybody, we did a poll last week about what tire set I should get, and for some reason Facebook would only let me put 2 choices, and that was the Maxxis Asegi / Dissector combo with the front rear, or double WTB Vigilantes with the fast roll on the rear and a high grip on the front. Well, overwhelmingly, the poll supported the Maxxis combo. Unfortunately, I was going to get those in Exo Plus, in the Max Terra, roll a little faster than the Max Grip, and that Dissector is impossible to get. And so I went with the Vigilantes, but getting to this point was, I kept changing my mind. I asked for more opinions. I was going to get some Kendas. I was going to get some other things. Kyle had to go through all this with me. Kyle, on a scale of from 1 rainbows and unicorns to 10, how much Joe Exotic hates Carol Baskin, where were you with me today? Where did I get you to?
Well, hey there, cool cats and kittens. Now you are the nerdiest of nerds of any nerdy thing that could be nerdy about with mountain bike tires. It is baffling to me. You know more about mountain bike tires than I do about mountain bikes and mountain biking. So between the 36 tires you were choosing from, the 97 different compounds they come in, and the fast, light, whatever, I had no idea. I eventually got to the point where I had to start sending screenshots of tires available from my distributor and just say, Clinton, I'm not going to read this. You just tell me what part number to order. And that's how we ended up landing on it.
Yeah, so definitely didn't go with the poll results at all, which begs the question of why did I do it in the first place? Well, I would have gotten those tires if they actually had the casing and compound I wanted. They didn't, so Clinton Vigilantes wear out, we'll try again.
Clinton chose to support his local bike shop and local race team and go buy stuff from the shop. And Clinton, you can tell what shop and everything that is if you want. Yeah,
I get my stuff from Momentum Cycles in O'Fallon, Missouri. That's where Kyle works. And I was trying to stick with tires that they could get. And it wasn't just that they couldn't get them. I was checking websites for the Dissector and all that. So didn't work out. Stay tuned, though. I'm probably going to do a tire-only podcast by myself because literally nobody wants to do it with me in the future. All right, enough of that tire talk. I'll let you know how they go. Today's going to be a little different. My sister's on here, as I mentioned before, and she got herself a mountain bike for, was it last Christmas, like 2018 Christmas?
I think so.
It's been over a year.
It's been over a year that I've joined your mountain biking club.
2018
here in the small town of Poteau, Missouri.
Yeah. So
and I'd like to take a moment to just go back and talk about this whole poll you took, because I recall about 3 days ago we were riding together around town and you were telling me about your glorious poll that I had not seen, and I'm pretty sure I said, Clint, you know you're going to get whatever tires you want. I don't know why you're taking a poll. You know if you take a poll, you have to listen to the people, right? And you're like, oh yeah, I will. Looks like that didn't work out.
All I have to say is I tried. Maybe next time.
You were never really going with that poll.
I think
people don't let him fool you. He was never going with your poll. I don't know what that was about. It's never going to happen.
I swear I'm going to mute you. You're banned.
And you know what? I think, honestly, Jack, I think we can agree on this. I don't even think it's about the poll. Clinton is just desperately searching for somebody that he can nerd out about mountain bike tires like he wants to, because he doesn't get the feedback from Ryan and I like he wish he did about mountain bike tires, because we frankly just don't care.
Yes.
Listen, Kyle, he tried the same thing with me. We were literally riding mountain bikes when he was going through his whole tire explanation. And I was like, listen, I literally have no clue what you're talking about right now. I haven't seen your pole. I don't care about your pole. I don't care about your tires. I'm just trying to ride my bike and not die.
Jaclyn, your tires would literally be flat if I didn't check them every time we rode.
That's true. That's true. They work just fine. I don't know why you get so obsessed over these things.
I don't know why I brought you on here, to be honest with you.
I'm on this show to bring a little reality. Bring this thing back down to earth.
Okay, well, why don't you real quick tell us, as it relates to, I guess, mountain biking, a little bit about yourself for the listeners and why it is you're on here. What we're talking about
to mountain biking.
Well, you can just tell us about yourself quickly. Okay,
I mean, I'm Clint's older sister, and I'm a mother of 3. I've been married for 16 years. I was in desperate need of some exercise. I, like Klint, prefer to do things that are fun to exercise, and Klint, carries on a lot about his mountain biking and how much fun it is. And so I started talking to him about, well, maybe I could ride a mountain bike. And he's like, you totally could. And so he and my husband got together and surprised me at Christmas with a mountain bike. And we started riding. I just ride for exercise, which I know for those of you listening, maybe some of you ride for exercise. Klint only rides to compete. So a lot of times our leisurely strolls turn into racing for no reason around town.
Whose fault is that, though? I just want to be
I know those feels, Jaclyn. Trust me.
No, you don't.
He won't let me win. It's really frustrating. It's really, really frustrating.
I don't try to win. I just have to listen to. I just have to ride and let Clinton talk about line choice and the fastest way through things. I just want to slap high fives at the bottom.
I don't know what's wrong with me, Kyle. Something takes over. We get about midway up a hill, and I just start going for it because I'm like, I'm ahead of him. I think I got him this time, and someday it's going to work. And he gets so mad at me. He's like, why are you trying to race me? And I'm like, because I thought I could win for that second. So I don't know what happens.
It's kind of sad because I don't know we're racing until I see you take off. But then I can't just we're riding side by side, and sometimes I'm even riding behind you, and that's fine until I see you try. If I see you try.
I did it today, actually. We were on kind of a straight stretch on the way home, and I was like, we need to get in some sprints. And I just took off and pedaled as fast as I could for as long as I could. And then he went by me, and it was sad, but I try.
Okay, so looking at our demographics on this right before, our listeners at this point in time, it's like 87% male, 13% female. And so something I thought you could talk about, Jaclyn, from a woman's perspective, there's kind of a meme in mountain biking. It's a known stigma that generally when guys try to get their wives or girlfriends into riding, if they're not already into it, that it does not go well. However, you ride, you enjoy it. Now we ride, when we ride together, we mostly, because of time constraints, we just ride around town. Like no dirt trails. It's like hood rat stuff with my sister at certain places I probably shouldn't name because it might not be.
It's ridiculous, really.
Illegal. Just describe kind of a ride for us.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous because we don't, I think most of the time the reason women don't take to it is not because they wouldn't enjoy it. It's the time factor. I have 3 kids. I understand what it takes to get out of the house for an hour. It can be, challenging. And a lot of times women feel guilty or feel like they're not the one that can just do that. And so that's the challenging part for me, which women would understand. I don't know if the men listening will, but I can say for the men listening, if you can get your wife to try, she might really, really like it. It's great exercise. But Klint and I we just take off from his house. We just take a bunch of side roads, back roads. Klint's constantly looking for a ditch to jump over or a hill to jump off of. Sometimes there may be people's yards involved. It just depends where we are and if we know the people on the street. I've gotten where I'm constantly looking for places for him to jump off of, and I'm kind of like the watch. I make sure no cars are coming that are going to smash him, and I give him the all clear, and he jumps off of things, and we ride down stairs through town or wherever. We just go wherever we want to. We never really have a plan. We just, somebody yells left or right, and that's the direction that we go until we're tired, and then we head back. But it's a lot of fun. It's relaxing. I was telling him today what I like most about it as a woman is if I only have 30 minutes, I can ride as hard as I want to and still get a good burn and feel like I've done something. Or we can take more time and just kind of relax. We always try to do a lot of hills. We do a lot of hills, really. We do a lot of climbing. I think from my perspective, it seems like a lot of climbing, but Klint may be like, we don't do any climbing. I don't know what he'll say, but
we get in a good amount for the distance we ride, but it's all
yeah. I'm just trying to make it worth my time. You know, time is precious. So if we're gonna do it, we're gonna ride hard and feel like we got a good workout. If I can walk upstairs without, you know, jelly legs, then we haven't done a good job. So that's kind of my goal. Is when I get off, I want to be barely, you know, moving at that point.
Now, so for some perspective, you were a runner in high school. You played a little bit of basketball, yes. A little bit of JV basketball in college.
I'm sorry, what sport did you play in college? Oh, that's right. None.
I rode my mountain bike. I did dual slalom too, one time, B class, got first place.
Just for the audience listening, Klint, Jaclyn, how far apart are you guys?
I'm 6 years older than Klint.
I was going to say 5.5, but yeah, we'll go with
well, okay. It's 5.5. 5.5, technically. I'm 5.5 years older, but I'll tell you what, Kyle, you can't tell it when we're out there on those bikes. People probably think he's having a hard time keeping up with his old sister.
Good.
Well, I convinced you to ride because I swore you wanted some exercise. I know you're not a fan of getting in the gym and lifting weights. And running.
I don't have time for that. It's not as fun.
And I was certain if I could just get you on a bike, it's probably the most fun cardio workout you can have. And
it is fun, yeah.
Here's where I think we did a good job is you and I have only ever actually been to like legit trails, 4 or 5 times?
4 or 5 times, yeah.
We've been to Berryman, we've been to St. Joe Park.
Because it takes, you know, it adds at least another hour to the expedition if we do that. That's why.
However, we still got you a decent bike. So when we do go to those places, you have a Trek Roscoe, which is a good 27.5 plus hardtail that we got from Momentum. And I think it still allows you, even though mountain bikes don't roll the fastest down the street, I think it's a more comfortable riding position. And you yourself do find yourself going off of staircases from time to time.
I do, indeed.
You know, we're working on those bunny hops. But I think
we jump a lot of speed bumps. We get to jump a lot of speed bumps now. That's fun.
You know, I think a mountain bike for an overall fun riding experience is the way to go because you're not limited in the places you ride. I mean, you ride around the farm on those plus tires through grass and stuff like it's no problem. That I can't. I do. You cried like a baby today going across the bottom of a field.
Kyle, I need you to know. He was back there complaining like, why are we in this grass? This is so hard. Wham, wham, wham. I was like, just get on a cow path and come on.
Well, Little Miss doesn't weigh nothing on her plus tires, was going across the field like it was pavement. I felt like I was riding through peanut butter in this deep grass trying to get to the paved road. Now we get to the paved road and it's all good, and I say bye-bye up the hill, but I don't know. Those plus tires, it's just like floating across grass. It was ridiculous. Couldn't keep up.
That's the idea.
Sad to say. Now,
I do love the bike you chose for me because I do feel like I can go anywhere. I don't, you know, I feel like if you want to hit some off-road stuff, that's fine. If you want to stay on the pavement, that's fine. It doesn't really matter to me. It all feels good.
All right.
So it's fun.
So if you could say something, let's say there's some guys or ladies listening that they're thinking about trying this mountain biking thing out.
Just do it.
Okay. Now, what would you tell specifically the men to say, like how to approach it maybe differently than like, oh, you got to get out to the trails. It's so fun. Like, what would your advice be?
I think my advice to him would be, this is something we can do together. Maybe not all the time. There are going to be times when he wants to, go ride harder, race or whatever, and that's fine. But if you can make it something that you would do with your wife somehow, that's number one for women listening. They love to do things with you. And the other thing would be, let her know you don't have to start at a crazy, pace or doing crazy downhill stuff. If you just get her on two wheels and let her pedal, I think she'll probably, if she's got any kind of desire to do it at all, she's probably going to fall in love with it. I mean, it just, I don't know. I did. Maybe I'm weird. I don't know. But I actually was surprised by how much I enjoy it. So I think it's just, I don't know. And if you can frame it as something she can do for herself, give her a little time away from the house, away from the kids in quarantine, even if it's a half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever, she's probably going to jump all over that if you want to go to the trouble of buying her a bike. I mean, just surprise her with the bike.
Yeah.
That's what happened
It's
to me.
a pretty nice bike, and it's still less than half the price of a Peloton.
Well, we talk about all the
True.
time at the shop is like part of the thing is like, let's be real. I like riding mountain bikes for a multitude of reasons, but like one of the reasons, small reason, I feel really cool riding mountain bikes. I feel cool doing it. And so anytime you can help your wife, sister, daughter, mom, whatever, feel cool doing something, be it a bike or a new pair of shorts or a neat helmet, a pair of gloves, like stuff like that, like getting the right equipment and where you have somebody, you can put somebody in a position where they look forward to playing with their new toy per se. Feeling cool, feeling comfortable and helping that process along really helps the enjoyment factor. And
yeah, I would agree with that.
Clinton was much nicer to you than I was to my wife because my wife had never ridden a mountain bike in her life, and I made her race downhill at Eureka Springs that was literally her first mountain bike experience.
Hey, I've seen.
Well, Clint's not my husband, so he knows better than to try something like that.
Where was it? October 2018. We were down in Bentonville doing a photo shoot for Outbound Lighting, and Lauren and I. It was like misty, rainy, dark, cold. It was like in the 40s. I was freezing to death, and we're riding down rock gardens with just like this photographer's set up lights and stuff. And Lauren was taking it like no problem. I was rather impressed, I have to say.
Lauren, if you're listening, props to you, girlfriend. Way to go.
So another thing is I did insist that if Jaclyn was going to do this back then, I was like, you need to just go ahead and make the investment in a pretty good bike. Like, and when I say pretty good, I just mean one that's got sort of more modern geometry. It's still a hardtails plus bike, but I think
he was pretty adamant.
People make the mistake all the time. If you have any desire whatsoever to get off of pavement in any capacity, a big box store bike is just very rarely ever going to cut it. I actually was working on one of a person who lives in my neighborhood today. It was a brand new bike from Dick's Sporting Goods, and it was completely non-functional out of the box. And there was nothing we could do to fix it. It was just, and so he just wanted something to ride around the neighborhood. But if you gotta, ride the bike before you buy it, or at least ride one like it. Anyway, that's a little off topic.
Well, I will say Clint was right about that. I kind of fought him on that when we first started talking about it because I didn't really want to spend the money because I wasn't sure I'd have the time to ride it and blah, blah, blah. But once we got the bike and the helmet and the gloves and the good shoes are another thing. You can work your way into a woman's heart with a new pair of shoes too, even if they're mountain bike shoes. I didn't realize how important the shoes were. I was riding in my in my Under Armour running shoes for about the first, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 rides. And after several pedal spikes to the shins and knees, I was like, this isn't working, Klint. So that, all of that does make a difference. And for a beginner, I think you need to just, if you're listening and you're a beginner or you're getting ready to set someone up, just go ahead and bite the bullet. It is worth it.
And if you hate it right off the bat and the bike's practically brand new, you can still sell it for most of what you paid for it if you really want to get out of it. I think that's a better way to look at it is, I'm going to buy a super cheap bike that's I'm going to want to upgrade immediately or try to get out of. Well, nobody's going to buy that back off of you used. But if you get like something decent, like a legit name brand bike, you know, Trek or a big brand like that, if you ride it and you're immediately like, I don't like this, you can probably find somebody to buy that for pretty close to what you had, and you're not going to be out any more money than if you buy a cheap bike and hate it and can't get rid of it and you want to upgrade.
And to be honest with you, Klint, so I've been selling bikes a long time. I've been working at Momentum Cycles now for 13 years. I've never actually had that happen. I've never had somebody buy a bike and buy a nice bike and think to themselves, you know what, this just isn't as fun as I thought it would be. I really shouldn't have bought this nicer bike. It's never happened. I can't tell you how many times, though, I get somebody who comes in and wants to get into mountain biking and buys a $500 bike and then spends $400 on upgrades. And then 8 months later realizes they should have just bought the $1,000 bike out of the gate and had a much nicer bike. And so it's such a hard conversation that I run into now, is that people want to get into mountain biking and they only want to spend $400. And the thing is that $400 like that, it's unfortunate that price point just doesn't quite get you what you need to get a bike that makes mountain biking enjoyable. And that's the biggest thing. You got to buy a bike that makes you excited to go ride. I mean, Clinton's got one of the best looking bikes ever made, aside from being a nerd anyways. But like, if you get a bike that looks that cool, you look at it like, man, I just want to go ride. Like, I just want to go ride my bike because it's a cool looking bike. It feels good to ride. Like, having a nice piece of equipment makes the activity so much more enjoyable. And that's the whole point, is that you're getting a bike to get into fitness. You're getting a bike to get into riding. So get something that makes you want to go ride, not makes you think how much your back hurts afterwards or how bad your hands hurt afterwards or how scary it was because your brakes didn't work. You know, get a bike that makes riding exciting and enjoyable for yourself, because that's what's going to get you out on the trail.
You know, Kyle, when I borrowed your bike, not the bike you have now, but your gray Remedy that you had last year for a little bit, Jaclyn, we went to ride, and she's just like, you don't look right on that thing. Where's your bike? Because I have the yellow, the Volt. I have a Trek Slash 9.8, but it's like the neon yellow and like teal blue fade. And
it's got like an ombre effect to it.
Ombre, there we go.
Yeah, and my bike is the kind of aqua teal color that matches his. So we're kind of mountain bike Twinkies around town. It's so cute.
Literally, the only people who ride bikes around here. Anyway, so all that aside, so we're running out of time. We might have to do another podcast with Ryan another day, Kyle, because this is kind of have a theme of its own, is just getting into riding. I think the newer bikes that cost a little more are a lot safer is another aspect, because of the geometry. The head angles are slacker. They're not throwing people over the front of the handlebars quite as easily. To me, a beginner, the last geometry I would ever want a beginner rider on is cross-country geometry.
Traditional cross-country.
Well, yeah, like steep head angles, short, long, what's the stems?
Yeah, long stem, steep head tube, short top tube. Yeah, no, it's changing.
I remember in Houston, a guy came to visit a friend of mine, and we swapped bikes for part of the ride. And he had like a specialized, it's just their basic hardtail. It might have been like a rock hopper or something. And we're on flat trails in Houston, Texas, and I was like so sketched out because it was just so twitchy. I would never put my wife on this bike.
We'll have to do a podcast too with Lauren, because Lauren's got some interesting mountain bike stories for her segue into getting into mountain biking. And aside from the downhill race that I made her do, her first experience riding mountain bikes was on hardtail 29er cross-country race bikes, and they both ended in catastrophic crashes that kept her off of a bike for 18 months following each one.
Oh no.
They were terrible. I felt so bad. They were legit bad wrecks, and she got hurt. And she's like, I'm never doing this again. And it took me 2 years to get her back on a bike each time after that. Now she's in a trail bike with modern trail geometry, and she rips. I mean, Lauren's a strong rider, but the experience wasn't good for her the first time because she was just simply on the wrong bike. But it was all that we had access to. It was a demo day, and so I was just at the mercy of whatever tiny size they had on the rack at the time.
Yeah, that geometry makes a big difference.
I would say for anybody listening that's wanting to get into it or is wanting their wife or someone to get into it, do find someone who knows what they're talking about and trust them. I'm lucky because I have Klint, and so he, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just want to exercise and ride a bike. I had no clue the variety, that was out there and what was available and what I needed. So I would just say, trust the experts. It really, really does make a huge difference. And I love to ride my bike. I can't even imagine. I've been on Klint's a couple of times. He's let me on it. And even that upgrade is pretty phenomenal to feel the difference, But I don't want to spend that kind of money just yet. But it really does make a difference. And I would not have believed that had I not been on the bikes myself. So.
Right. And you bring up a really good point there, Jaclyn. I mean, like the jump from a hardtail to a full suspension bike is a big jump. And that's something that like I get people talking like, hey, Kyle, listen, I want to get into mountain biking, but I'm not a pro. I don't need anything fancy. Just give me something basic. I only want to spend $300. It's like, listen, trust me. Like I know where you're at. I'm not going to try to sell you a carbon fiber, $5,000 bike, full suspension bike, but you got to trust me a little bit here and just know that I'm going to get you pointed in the right direction for something that you're going to enjoy long term. And the people that have trusted me on that have been really happy about it. But we're, as somebody that sells bikes and has worked in the industry forever, like I am never trying to sell you a bike that you don't need, but I often will try to push people to get them to a point to where it's a bike that they will enjoy.
Yeah, there's a big difference between surviving a ride and enjoying a ride. And even though we don't ride trails a ton, well, I do, but Jaclyn, you don't get the chance as often. I know you like it, like the times we have been.
Oh yeah.
And so having a bike that can handle all that, even if it's just a few times a year, is worth it. Now, you already mentioned a must-have for you. I mean, a helmet's obvious, and I know you wear gloves, and then the shoes we got you from some 510s. So that when you're going downstairs, your feet don't slip off the pedals. But we did a couple other things to your bike.
Did we?
Yeah, we did. When we first got it, you had a major complaint.
Oh, my seat.
Yes, your I guess saddle is the correct.
Oh, sorry, my saddle. My saddle was creating a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, it was awful.
We swapped out the Bontrager saddle. I don't know what the women's is called. I don't think it's an Arvada, but it looks and feels a lot like an Arvada. But we did some research, and Jaclyn won't know because she doesn't care what it's called. We got you though. It's a Selle Italia.
It's called the Throne. It's called my throne up there.
Yeah.
It's
a Selle Italia women's specific design. It's got more padding, but
it has pink stitching. That's all I really know about it. And it's comfortable. It makes a big difference. That's another thing. I mean, you kept telling me, you got to ride, you got to get your body used to being in a saddle, basically. And I think there is some truth to that. I think maybe I would have gotten used to the other one eventually, but
I don't know.
I don't know. Having a good saddle definitely makes a big difference. Now there's, it's pain-free. So that's great. Yeah.
The other thing we did is we swapped out your handlebars because I think the bars that came stock on your bike were like 780 millimeters wide, which probably doesn't mean much to you, but that's a pretty wide bar for someone with super narrow shoulders. I mean, my shoulders are wider than yours, and I run a 750 millimeter bar. So
yeah, I do remember that. Yeah,
we did swap out for some narrower handlebars, just because 780 just seems so wide.
Yeah, all the adjustments make a big difference. Clint's been really good about, I think you need to raise your seat. I think we need to slide it back. All those things, making sure I keep my knees healthy and all that stuff. So again, find an expert or someone who at least does all the research for you and trust what they say, because all those things make such a big difference. And like Kyle said, enjoying the ride is probably the most important thing, or you're not going to do it.
Well, something I've learned, and this is a good tip for beginners or newbies, or if you're getting a significant other into it, is if they're having pain from riding, not like muscle soreness the next day, like, oh, my quads are so sore. That's one thing. But if somebody's having pain, and I think people generally know the difference when their body's like having an actual pain versus just tired muscles. If it's knees, butt, back, or whatever, that probably means there's a fitment issue. It's I used to think whatever it is, your body will just get used to it and then your body will adapt. There might be a little truth to that, but if you're having knee pain, if you just are totally uncomfortable on the saddle, whatever, go to a local bike shop, find somebody who knows about fitment, have them, do an assessment on how your bike fits, because that's probably going to be a bigger part of the problem.
Yes, agreed.
All right, well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. These two are going to hop off. I'm going to stay on for just a few minutes longer and do my first ever end of show tire review. And today I'm going to be reviewing the Michelin Wild Enduro set. So
listen, all you hardcore bros out there, you stay tuned for that. This mama's got to get some cereal and get to bed.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
See you, Jaclyn. It's good talking to you.
See you, Kyle. You too.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Jaclyn. Maybe we'll have Jaclyn on some other time. Kyle, if you want to stick around for the tire talk, you can. But if you guys need to go.
Absolutely not. I've talked about tires with you for way too long today.
Well, that's fine because you don't know anything about them anyway. So I'm going to do this part by myself.
Peace.
All right. For my first tire review, I'll probably do a podcast where I just review like all these tires in one podcast. But just for a little bite size, I thought I would review some pros and cons of some different tire sets I've had. One of the more recent sets I've had is the Michelin Wild Enduro set. So I had these 29-inch wheels, 2.4-inch wide. The rear came in the Gum X compound. I got the Magic X compound for the front, which, looking back, I'm wondering if I would have benefited more from the Gum X for the kind of trails I ride. So the Wild Enduro set, there's a front-specific tire and a rear-specific tire, and I know some people say, well, you can run the front on the rear for hyper-aggressive. I would only do that if I was riding somewhere that had tons of steeps with loose dirt where you really need knobs to dig in, because this front tire, it has big knobs, center and as well as the side knobs. So it's got a center row of 2 knobs, and then right behind those a set of transition knobs and then right behind off to the sides of that you have the cornering knobs. And one thing about this tire is the spacing between the knobs is pretty big, especially the cornering knobs. There's a lot of gap between each one, and a lot of space between the center row knobs. And like I said, they're big and chunky. So this is a couple things. First of all, when it comes to stability, these tires are super stable. They have a very square looking profile on the rim, or at least on 30 millimeter internal rims is what I'm running. They're extremely stable. There's tons of braking power, tons of traction. However, especially, I can't speak for the Gum X on the front, but the Magic X compound, it's not a fast roller. This is definitely the slowest rolling front tire I've ever had. Slower than a DHF, slower than a Specialized Butcher, slower than a Montrager SC4 by far, slower than a Vigilante by far. It's not a fast roller on the front. But I will say, if I lived in the big mountains and the kind of rides I did was like slog up a fire road and then hit some steep, gnarly, loose trails where you need a tire that you can trust at a moment's notice because you're riding on the edge, this is a great choice. I think maybe if you're riding somewhere that's just constantly hard packed, it might not be the best choice because those turning knobs, I've never seen side knobs so spaced out. It almost looks like something you would expect to find on a mud tire, that those turning knob rows. And I think on harder pack, it starts to get off camber, that you're actually not going to have enough rubber making contact with the ground, and you might actually lose some traction. However, I never personally experienced that, so I could be wrong. It could be totally solid for hard pack as well, although I think this tire is really designed to save your butt and give you confidence when terrain's unpredictable. You know, a lot of loose over hard, off camber. I would say it's a tire with a lot of built-in safety in it. That's a word I would use for this tire. It is very safe. If you're going into the unknown, I can't imagine a situation where you'd just be like, man, this tire really let me down, especially on the front. Now the rear tire, it's got a very similar tread pattern to the front tire, but shrunken down. So the knobs are a lot smaller, both in their diameter and their height, but it's still the same pattern. It's two center transition edge knobs, but there's just more of them, but they're smaller, they're lower. The Gumex compound rolls faster. And as a rear tire goes, not the most powerful braking tire because the knobs are small. Remind me a bit of like a WTB Trail Boss when it comes to braking. I'd say the Michelin definitely had a little more braking power. It definitely, the compound, while faster rolling than the Magic X, it's still decently soft compound. When that tire is new, it will grip up slick rock and roots, no problem. Very confidence inspiring. These tires, one thing I really love about them, both front and rear, is they have that nice row of transition knobs. So at any lean angle, there's no dead spot. You know, that's an issue I have with like the DHF and tires like that is, as you start to initiate your turn, if you don't go from upright to all the way over and really crank the bike over to make a turn, there's sort of a dead spot where it'll drift and then it catches as you get that full lean angle. I'm not a fan of that. The Michelin, if you're on some off camber, kind of weird single track, where sometimes you just need to finesse the bike and kind of tightrope it, and you might have just a slight gradual lean angle here or there. These Michelin Wild Enduros are great for that because they always have a contact point with the ground. And for aggressive racing, I mean, they rip. I could totally see myself going back to this tire combo. I love Michelin. I love their motocross tires. You know, once we get this Shepherd Mountain Bike Park open and I'm riding a lot more steep, fast, kind of gnarly stuff, and I need a tire that I can completely trust for my safety, I could totally see myself going back to these tires. But for riding more of the typical Midwest flowy, you know, you're riding gradual grade up, gradual grade down, a lot of pedaling to maintain your speed even on the descents. This would probably is not going to be my tire of choice. It just doesn't roll fast enough as a combination. So I would say these tires are firmly in the category of enduro race tire. I could even see the front, you know, they're pretty tough. I could totally see the front being used as a downhill tire. I know Michelin just came out with some new downhill tires that I think their tread patterns look really promising and awesome, but they're like 1,500 gram tires. So obviously between the wire bead and the extra thickness of the casing, They are true, pure downhill tires, and I'm hoping that they'll eventually come out with the DH22 and 34 as maybe the Enduro 22 and Enduro 34. So I'd love to give them a try. So that's it for the Michelin ones. Great traction. If you're not a racer and you just are looking to have a good time and you absolutely want tires that are going to offer you maximum grip and safety and reliability, these are your tires. If you're not racing hardcore, I would recommend maybe trying the Gum X on the front. Should roll a little faster. And they say it offers more comfort at low speed. Wouldn't know. I have no reason to doubt them. But as for me, if you're racing enduro and you're a Midwesterner and a lot of your enduro stages, involve pedaling, I raced this tire at in Bella Vista, Arkansas, and I believe I raced this tire when I first got them at Kohler when these tires first came out. It was not the right choice for that race. The Kohler Enduros, it's like long BMX stages. I mean, you're just pedal sprinting the entire time. So rolling resistance is a big deal on those. Whereas, if you live out in east in the Appalachians or out in the Rockies, hey, I'd definitely give these a shot because they're certainly lighter than true downhill tires. But I don't think they give up. The rear might, but I don't think that front gives up anything when it comes to braking, stopping power, cornering in the mountains to any downhill tire. So if you're looking for something that's like a downhill option but is a little lighter, this might be the way to go. All right, that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. And I'm not going to make any promises on what next episode is going to be about because I did last week and we ended up not doing it. So we'll see.